Alright, so this video is going to go over how to take points off of a graph and build an exponential function from a graph or from a table. Now when you guys are doing this, it's going to be very important that you build a table. Always build a table so you have your numbers. Right now you'll notice we have a y-intercept right here at 0, 8. And you have another point on the graph right here which is at a 1 and a 2. Now what you need to understand, this y-intercept is always the a value. So your y-intercept is always the a value when you're trying to create your function a times b to the power of x. So that initial value right here is going to be 8. Finding the b value is really easy. All you have to do is take this number and divide it by this number. So our b value is simply going to equal 2 divided by 8. And that's if you have 2 points. You got a 0 and then you have the 1. All you have to do is just take these and divide the previous number, and it becomes 1/4. All right? So in review, you take this number, you divide it by the previous number, and that gets you your common ratio. It ends up becoming our decay factor in this particular problem. So I'm going to put parentheses 1/4 to the power of x, and that's going to be our answer I'm going to put right there. So our initial value is always going to be your y-intercept. So whatever this point is right here, that's going to be your a value. And to find your b value, take this number, divide it by the previous number, and that gives you your b value. So you have an 8, parentheses, 1 divided by 4, close parentheses to the power of x. Okay. Here's our next problem. This one, they just give us the table, so they actually make it even easier for us because they already give us the table. So we can clearly see that that's our a value. So if I have a times b to the power of x, I'm going to put 12 parentheses, and now all I'm going to do is take this number and divide it by this number. So I take the 9, I divide it by the 12, and that reduces to 3/4. Now if you get a decimal like 0.75, you could actually put 0.75 because it's not a repeating decimal. All right, so hopefully we'll get one where we have a repeating decimal so I can show you that's when you can't use a decimal. So if you wanted to, you could use 12 times 3/4 to the power of x or times 0.75. Either one will work. So right here, I'm just going to put a 12. I'm going to put 0.75 so you can see that it works to the power of x. There we go. So you don't have to use a fraction. You can use a decimal, but the decimal has to be discrete and not continuous. Okay. All right, take a look at this one. This one we have to interpret our ordered pairs, make a little table. Doesn't take long. It really doesn't. Just write it down. So we have a 0 and a 3 and a 1 and a 6. So right now we can clearly see that that's going to be our a value. So if we're writing our function a times b to the power of x, all we have to do is put the number 3 right there because it's our y-intercept. How do we find the b value? We take the 6 and we divide it by the 3, and that just becomes 2. Because the simplified version of 6 divided by 3 is 2, which means our common ratio or our growth factor is the number 2. And that's our answer. Remember, it's always this number divided by this number every single time. That's why teaching math is so much easier if I can just tell them it works every single time. And either they believe me or they don't, but it does. It just works. Don't have to worry about arguing with teenagers. Either it works or it doesn't. So if it works, just do what works. All right, last problem. Do the same thing I just did. Hopefully by the fourth time you're like, I know what to do now. Stop talking. Well, you don't have to watch this video. You can just shut it off anytime you want. What's my A value? 8. My B value is going to be 10 over 8. Now, as a decimal, if we did 10 divided by 8, you get 1.25. That's a discrete decimal. It's not continuous, so you could use 1.25. But if you use a fraction, you have to reduce it to that 5 over 4. Okay, otherwise you'll get it wrong. So if you wanted to change it to 5 over 4, that would work. If you want to leave it as 1.25, that will also work. What won't work is leaving it as an unsimplified improper fraction. So just so you guys can see that you can use a decimal, it's still equivalent. It's 8 to the power of 1.25 to the power of x. Now, when couldn't you not use a decimal? If you got like 5 over 3, you couldn't use that repeating decimal. You'd have to use the 5 over the 3. Or if you got a 2/3, can't use that. Or if you got like 1 divided by 7, not a good idea. These you'd have to actually use the fractions. All right, let's take a look at this. So right now, what number am I starting out with? I'm starting out with the number 8. That's my A value. And then I said I was going to use a decimal, 1.25, and then raise that to the power of x. There we go. That's how you do it.